Our guest today is a legend of soccer coverage in America. He runs the Third Degree blog and podcast, vital sources for fans of FC Dallas and American soccer in general, I think. And I strongly recommend joining the Patreon. Buzz Carrick, welcome back to Scuffed.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me on.
If you look at the birth years 1998 to 2003, which you have in detail, FC, I'm gonna take a little while to describe this, and then I'll ask a question. But FC Dallas graduated a truly remarkable number of high-level talents that were born in those 6 years, I guess. At the top of that list are Weston McKennie, Chris Richards, and Ricardo Pepi. But there are a lot of others: Tanner Tessman, Jesus Ferreira, Reggie Cannon, Ali Zendejas, Paxton Pomacall, Brian Reynolds, Edwin Cerrillo, and there are more than that. That pipeline by, say, 2021, when the 04s were turning 17, it seemed like a gift that was just going to never stop giving, but it did kind of stop giving, at least from a national team perspective. What happened?
Well, there's a whole lot of things have happened. I think
let's talk about all of them.
Yeah, first you have to understand that FC Dallas had a head start on everybody else. They were one of, if not the first group to embrace the academy system and the value of the academy system. So their first class is in 1991, which is darn near a decade before this golden window that you're talking about. And then Oscar Pareja set the thing up with a whole lot of really good coaches that are really good recruiting. And then the other thing to remember is that DFW, North Texas in general, is a hotbed for soccer talent and always has been. You can go back to the great Dallas Texans teams that won, multiple national championships with guys like Diego Hernandez or Clinton Dempsey. This always has been a phenomenal area for talent. So because of the territory rules and such, Dallas gets all those guys automatically. And then they had a lot of really good recruiting coaches and a lot of really good developing coaches at the time in the academy. So it all peaked in that window that you're talking about, and it peaked with an absolute explosion of talent. And the real trick is that on top of the local talent, they also recruited really well. You can look at half those names you mentioned are not from here.
Right.
Reggie's not from here. Alex and Dejas and Pepe are from El Paso, and both played for FC Dallas El Paso, but that's not an academy side. They had to go out there and be recruited and scouted. Chris Richards is not from here. Tanner Tessman's not from here. These guys went out and found by people and scouted by people and brought and convinced to come here. Now, again, because they were one of the first ones that really FC Dallas adapted this academy system. And they were already showing a willingness to promote guys as the first team. Your Kellen Acostas, your Emerson Heinemans, your Victor Ulloas had come through, Jesse Gonzalez. And so they already had guys that were coming through the first team. And so people would come here. Mm-hmm. The rest of MLS realizes that you can add players this way. Everybody else makes great academies. Everybody else starts recruiting. And that advantage went away. And on top of that, for FC Dallas, they started losing coaches through attrition. They lost a great number of really great coaches either to other clubs or more often are not moving up the chain. You can look at Mike Uveris' San Diego head coach, mm-hmm. right, was a key part of what was happening here. Lucha Gonzalez became their own first team coach and then is gone. Guys like Peter Lusan, great recruiter, became a head coach here as an interim head coach, but wasn't able to keep the job. Javier Morales goes to Inter Miami and is a big part of what their success has become with their academy. The Bazan brothers, Oscar Pareja himself, gone. So there's attrition happens in the coaching ranks, which is not to say that the people left are bad coaches per se, mm-hmm. but the reason guys get hired away is because they're the elite. They're the ones that go to a national team program, like Alex Valdez, guys that can really develop and really recruit and really take things to the next level in talent ID. So this attrition happens. Also, when Lucha Gonzalez left, Chris Hayden, who had been vice president of youth, took on the academy director role. So those two jobs were combined into one job. And I think it's a problem that those two jobs are one job. I think there should be two jobs. There should be an academy director full time. Now,
what does the vice president of youth do? Like, what is
runs the other 5,000 clubs that FC Dallas has in their system? Like FC Dallas's youth system isn't just 6 academy teams. It's a gigantic, humongous youth academy with 5,000 players in the Metroplex alone and all these other satellite programs.
Which are a feeder for the academy.
Yeah. Chris Hayden ran the club that became FC Dallas Youth. So like FC Dallas Youth is a big academy, a big club, just like Dallas Texans or Solar or anybody else that runs a big, huge, massive club in the Metroplex. They happen to also run an academy on top of that. So that should be an individual position. I think you can see there's a reaction to that because Senator Orentali, the technical director here, who works under Zanata, has now sort of stuck his hand in and taken a overall grab of the academy to sort of integrate it more completely and thoroughly through North Texas up to the first team and make sure everybody's sort of on the same page. So I think there's a little bit of a recognition that Hayden is stretched a little thin, in my opinion. So you combine all those factors and there's just a little bit of shine off of the FC Dallas Academy. It's not the best way to go anymore. That's not the program that can get you through to the first team. It's not quite as elite of coaching and talent as it used to be. So like, it's still very good. I don't think that anyone would say that it's not at least top 10 in MLS still, and probably it's the top 5 in most conversations in terms of developing talent. But it doesn't have Weston McKennie that's obvious yet right now, and we'll see. The other thing that happened that makes it look bad is that through 2003, they've sold all these players, right? FC Dallas sell. They never had Weston, but Reggie got sold. Zendejas got sold. Kappas, they weren't able to get without he's come back. Chris Richards was sold. Soria was traded away. Jesus Ferreira traded away. Brian Reynolds was sold. Tanner Tessman was sold. Jonathan Thompson, and they never were able to cap. Ricardo Pepe was sold. Justin Shea was sold. Jogo they missed on. Dante Sealy was let go. So like this elite group of talent in that category are all gone. Mm-hmm. And that includes guys up to 2003. And then you look at 2004, 2002 and 2004 were both poor classes. 2004 was only Antonio Carrera, and he was just sold to Tigres. So after that, there's this gap, there's a space. And, a 15-year-old is not really going to help you. So you look to 2005, and now you're talking about Nolan Norris, captain of the U20 team up until he aged out of it. Anthony Ramirez, Tarek Scott. That's the next group, and they're waiting for that group to become MLS constant and capable. Another problem that's raised its head. This is a long conversation, I promise. They struggled to keep guys. Like look at 2006. Matthew Corcoran plays for Nashville. Julian Isone, they lost to Brentford, the keeper. Kirol Figueroa, they lost quite a long time ago, but he was in their academy for 2 years and they weren't able to convince him to stay. So like there's elite players that are doing what we call a Jogo, Jonathan Gomez, who skipped and chose to sign with somebody else in USL or go
went
somewhere
to Lou City, right? And
now he hasn't turned into Pepe, but whatever. He still went to Europe when he turned 18 and all these kinds of things. So like, they've struggled to necessarily get everybody in, but then when you look to like the 2007 class, you're literally looking at, let me count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players already under contract from 2007. Now you haven't heard any of them because they haven't broke through yet, but they had Santiago Morales, Javier Morales' kid, who's a homegrown for Inter Miami now. They had him at one point, but obviously he's going to follow his dad. So you look at the current classes and on, they have this high volume of kids, a lot of them in national team programs, right? They have Isaiah Kakushi just hurt his knee, is a U.S. Youth International. Jaden Contreras has a cap or 2. Leonardo Arena-Reja got a cap or 2. They have Tarek Scott and Alcai Molina, who are Jamaican Youth Internationals. They have Ramirez, who's a Mexican all over the place Youth International. So they still have this volume of talent. But because of this drought gap, they haven't broken through. And a big part of that is because of Nico Estevez. Nico Estevez did not like kids. He actively programmed FC Dallas to use the bottom of the MLS roster, the supplemental roster. He wanted veterans signed into those roles so that he could have veterans off of his bench, like an Omar Gonzalez took a supplemental spot, which could have been for some kid who could have gotten minutes. Instead, Omar Gonzalez got minutes.
Nico.
So when you push, and this club, like we said this when Nico was hired, like coming out of the senior national team program, okay, interesting hire. They went outside their system. They're trying something new. Okay. But this club's DNA is the pipeline, right? So like if you bring in a guy who doesn't love the pipeline, doesn't love the kids, doesn't want to play a kid until they're quote ready. So that lack of interest in bringing kids up sort of stopped the pipeline. And when North Texas SC won the title last year, they did it with having 5 or 6 guys that were draft picks were signed from USL that were between the ages of like 21 to 24 that got sent down and played down. So you're shoving the talent back down the pipe, and there was a bit of a stagnation for a couple of years. So all those
has there been an acknowledgement? Has there been an acknowledgement from Hunt or any other leadership that Nico was the wrong guy for the job because of that?
Well, I don't think they ever pointed a finger and said he was the wrong dude. But in the press conference after that, when they let him go, they talked about getting back to their DNA, getting back to their homegrown. And they went out and signed a rash of kids to combinations of straight North Texas deals, hybrid deals, and homegrown deals. As I mentioned, 7 signings already from the 2007 class. Now the talent range varies, of course. And right now you don't go, oh, look, there's the next $20 million Carter Pepe. That's a generational player. Weston McKinney, once a decade, right? That's, we don't know that that's in there yet, but they've redoubled down to that way. And Eric Quill, of course, was at North Texas SC here, and he brought, in the first place, Chris Richards and Chris Kappas to this academy, had them somewhere else and said, you guys need to take them from me. Like, the funny story with that is that the DA National Championship, he went to Lucci before they played FC Dallas and said, watch my game, watch these 2 players. You need to take these 2 players from me after the game. Then they beat FC Dallas on their way to winning the title. Quill did. And after the game, Lucci walked over and was like, yep, you guys are coming with us, and took them to FC Dallas. And within, they played in the academy for 1 year, and then they tried to sign both of them. They knew when they brought them there, they were going to sign them. And they played for a year, and they tried to sign him. And then Richards, of course, was signed, and Kappas got blocked by the Dynamo. But, that kind of Quill DNA youth development is in his, for this club. He's a guy that fits the system. He's a guy that's bringing guys through, and like, it's not high volume yet because they still are working on turning over the squad. But you see a lot of these homegrowns now on the bottom of the roster. They still play for North Texas, but they come in and they get the 10 minutes here. They get the game there. It's moving back towards the way it needs to be. We want to see Nolan play more, but he just got hurt. So there's guys yet. And at the end of the day, sometimes it also needs to be on the kids. It's like, okay, you have the talent. We've signed you. Okay, let's go. You need to now do something. It's not always just like, oh, you didn't coach him good enough. Sometimes it's like, okay, kid,
right.
It's time. Not every homegrown makes it and becomes elite. Mentality matters. Well,
let me ask a question from a listener. So this is from Lindsay, who's in Dallas, longtime third degree and scuffed listener. She says in her question what you just said. FC Dallas leadership has stated a desire to return to the play to kids model, and Quill has the background for it in theory. We've seen a little bit of it, but how likely do you think we really are to see more kids coming through and succeeding with the first team under Quill and Zanata? Partly because Quill wants to win, right? He needs to win games. I think you've talked about this on your podcast. Can you talk about it a little bit more?
Yeah, the Hunts have a stated mandate that the playoffs are the minimum. It's actually a shame, I think, that they think that way, because a new coach, I think you need to give him a little time to sort of build his squad and work his way in. So there's a pressure on Quill to win enough to make the playoffs. At the same time, you're trying to turn your roster over. But Quill is a believer in youth. I mean, he is the guy who brought through a lot of these guys. Like Pepe played for Quill, right? So like Jogo played for Quill. He won that 2019 championship at North Texas, starting a 15-year-old left back and a 17-year-old right back. Like Pepe was in up front. He had guys like that haven't become famous in MLS terms, but Arturo Rodriguez and David Rodriguez, both teenagers playing in that squad.
I remember. So
he recognizes young talent. Like he raves about Diego Garcia, a player we've been waiting here for a long time. Yet at the same time, the club technical director and the head of soccer operations are still signing $13 million strikers and $10 million wingers. Like, so at some point you have to have a balance of those things. But what we have less of is these journeyman 33-year-old veterans that are eating these minutes that are available. Like you can center back, of course, as an example, is notoriously difficult to develop youth talent at. They happen to get lucky and found this kid in Portugal who's 19, 20 years old. His name's Alvaro. So he mostly plays for North Texas SC. He's the 4th center back here on the first team. Quill's already used him 3 or 4 times in the first team. So like, is he ready to be the frontline starter? No, but is he an academy guy from the homegrown? No, but he's still 19. He's still recognized young talent and was willing to use him. They just sold Marco Farfan because of Nolan Norris and because of Josh Torquato, who's a 17-year-old who just turned 18 a week ago, homegrown, they just signed. So that they signed to a hybrid deal, and he was at North Texas SC, and he got so good so fast that they tore up that hybrid deal and accelerated him and gave him a straight homegrown contract. So again, two guys that are 20 years or younger, 21 and younger, made Marco Farfan expendable. So you sell him. So yeah, it's there, but playing kids is a luxury. A lot of times you can't play kids if you stink, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you have the power from the owner to be able to say, I've got 3 years guaranteed. I can stink for a year. I can play a whole bunch of kids, but who gets that, right? That's so rare. Quill's supposed to try and make the playoffs, so he has to do it slowly. Now, Oscar played a lot of kids, but he was getting 60 points a season and winning supporter shields. So he had the luxury of mixing in kids. Lucci played a lot of kids 2 of his 3 years, and it's at the end of the third year, it ended up costing him because he had too many kids and not enough veterans, perhaps, and he ended up getting let go. So it's hard to say that exactly. That wasn't the exact reason why he didn't, because he played too many kids, but because they love the kids. They want you to play kids here. It's a complicated process.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you did a burn recently, which is one of your quick audio notes for patrons about the disconnect between the age groups in Dallas's academy. So this is something it seems like you're hearing from a lot of different people, that doesn't seem to be a plan for this player. Can you describe that and what effect that has?
Yeah, there has been, again, I think this comes back to a little bit of a lack of substance and structure. FC Dallas or MLS teams in general are not Ajax or Bayern Munich, or pick any giant, massive club that has this humongous system with massive amounts of trainers and coaches and guys that are programs and all this kind of stuff. So basically, FC Dallas has a philosophy, and I'm not sure I agree with this philosophy, that every coach has the control of their team. At least they have up until now. Like, for example, North Texas SC, John Gall, the coach there, can play who he wants. He can play whatever tactic he wants. Now, he generally tries to replicate the tactic that the first team's playing, but not always. And he doesn't always play 100% with a development mentality. He mostly plays with a win mentality, because you see when they do win a title, here comes the owner and the TD down on the field holding up a trophy, talking about how winning this MLS Next Pro trophy is a verification of their system. Well, who cares about winning an MLS Next Pro title? What you care is about winning MLS. Who cares that you send out a bunch of older guys and won? A good example of that being bad is that when they won that last year, they took Logan Farrington and they sat him on the bench for 4 North Texas games. He didn't play; he just sat there. But because he was on the roster, that meant he was playoff eligible. And then the playoff rolled around, and they sent him down, and he started all the playoff games, rather than Tarek Scott, who had been leading the team in scoring to that point and was doing really great things. So in a way, you can think how they sacrificed the idea that they're going to win this championship, and they sacrificed one of their up and coming exciting players getting super awesome crunch pressure time. Like, would it have been better for Tarek Scott and for developing a home run into your first team? Logan Farrington didn't need those minutes.
Yeah.
So, that kind of mentality has been here for a while now, and every coach in the academy got his own way with how he wanted to play. Now, they do have this overall philosophy of style. Like, okay, when in the Lucci era and the Nico era, it was like, we're going to pass, we're going to do it out of the back. It was noticeable that when Quill took over, that they all adapted more of this verticality that Quill likes. But there definitely was not a seamless integration. There definitely was not, and I heard this over and over and over again, what's the plan? Where's my individual development program? Here's what you're bad at, here's what you're going to be good at. I'll tell a story about Julian Eystone. When Brentford met with him, they came in like the very first time and said, here's a video of you playing through a bunch of games in MLS Next Pro. Brentford had done this. Here's what you're great at. Here's your weaknesses. Here's the program we're going to put together that's going to fix and make you better, all your weaknesses. Like, they hadn't even signed him. This is the first time they met with him, and they had this complete developed program for how they were going to make him better. Here's the teams you're going to be with us for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. They had it all done and laid out before for the very first meeting they ever had with them. That level of detail doesn't exist in the FC Dallas Academy. I'm not familiar enough with other academies to know if that's true. I assume it is, because nobody here has a gigantic, huge academy staff of hundreds of people to do that kind of program for people you're scouting, let alone for people inside your own academy. So because of that individualness of the coaches, you sometimes got mixed messages from players about what level you're going to be at. Am I up? Am I down? How important am I? That kind of thing. Now, they've made an adaptation since January of this year. The newish technical director who's been here since the beginning of 2024, Sandro, he works underneath Andre Zanata. He is now putting his hands into the academy and making sure from U14 and up that there's an integrated plan of how we're going to play, who's going to be on what rosters, and how much they're going to play. So we immediately saw like 2 U17s immediately were moved up to play with the 18s, and the 16 was moved up to play with the 18s. They're going to play all the time. He has now determined who's going to coach what team for this next season coming up. So they're taking control of that aspect and trying to fix that aspect. So there was a recognition that it was true, that there was a lack of integration, and they're fixing it. Now, whether you think that's good or not depends on what you think of Sandro. And I will say that their hit rate on foreign signings has gone up since he's come here. So I think he's had a positive influence. We'll see what happens with the academy. They immediately have 15-year-olds starting for the 18s again. They immediately have guys coming up to North Texas all the time that have never played before. You know, we still need to have more control of North Texas SC and eliminate some of these older guys, these foreign signings that are basically off the trash pile. Somebody's agent sent them over. They're like 23. Nobody needs that. That's not going to help MLS. The MLS is way too good. I mean, it helps you win a North Texas title, but who cares about that?
Yeah, that's the thing, is I can understand the requirement to make the playoffs, you know, for the fans of FC Dallas. They care about the first team. I don't understand, man, like being super proud of stuff that happens at North Texas. Like, you know.
I don't either. You know, to call it a validation of your system seems weird to me because it doesn't mean anything. It's just a stop. It's like, you know, who cares that your U23 team won anything? I mean, nobody, even half the people out there never even heard of that team, and only like 5% care about it in any way at all. So
right.
It's like, you know.
Right. All right. So who is, you know, you said there's not a Ricardo Pepi, or at least we don't know of a Ricardo Pepi in the pipeline right now, or a Weston McKennie. Who do you think is, like, among all these younger players, who's the most likely to be a big hit? I know you're very careful about how you talk about this kind of stuff, but
well, you know, sometimes they have different feelings than I do about who's really good. For me, the player that you're most likely to see soon that really, really gets me, makes my soccer brain tingle, is a kid named Sam Seta. He's a 2009. He's an American Brazilian kid. He plays 9 or winger. The things that you look for in a player, that the ball touch that's silky, and I don't even mean like it stays at his feet. I mean like that supreme silk, the burst, the explosion, the ability to go by guys. You know, he's an electric player. He's a 2009. So he's the guy that, like, when Sandro stepped in as the academy, he immediately went from U16 to U18 and immediately started every game from there on out. Really special player. I get really excited when I watch him. But when you're a 2009, he literally, I don't think he's even 17 yet. So, like, you need to wait a little bit. FC Dallas, you know, doesn't have right now a guy who, like, at 16 is going to be in the first team. We're not seeing that away. But if you move, the thing about Seta that's nice is he is under contract. But then you move into the roster of young kids. You know, there's a Liam Verostic, who's a left back, center back, is pretty exciting. Steel Cook, super exciting.
Yeah, say more about Steel Cook. There was a question from a listener about that.
Yeah.
I want to give the listener's name. I can't find it. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. Steel Cook is a very exciting youth national team player. He's has been a bit short and a bit thin. So he, you know, at like 14 or 15, he would get smashed and he got hurt a little more than you would like, but he is very frequently involved with youth national teams. He is a supremely talented ball handling midfielder, creative. There's been some clips of him, you know, scorching like 4 or 5 guys in one run and scoring. Really talented player. He would need to get a little bit bigger and stronger because otherwise he'll just keep getting smashed. You know, if you can be too thin and too small. Like, You can look at Lucio Costa, who was 5'3", right? But he was a bulldog. You would smash him and he would just bounce. There are young guys like that. But if you're young and you get smashed and you're out of the game, you're not going to make it, right? There's a difference.
Right.
So moving past him, I really like Tamba Hawley, who's a U16, really exciting slashing player. Benji Flowers with the U15s just scores absolutely astronomical levels of goals. His older brother plays football at Oregon. So like you're talking about an incredibly athletic family. He also plays American football though. So he's going to be tugged. I mean, he's a, big time prospect on both sides. I think he's a bigger soccer product because talent, because he's in the national team programs. Whereas in football, I think he's just, a college player. I mean, I don't know enough about American football to tell you how he projects when he's 14 years old, but they have really talented players coming through. Now, is any of them Pepe? Man, who knows? I mean, I don't know how you spot Pepe at 12. I didn't. At 16, I saw Pepe and I thought, wow, what an electric player. That guy's going to be really good. How good? I mean, who knows? I'm not that kind of scout, but you can recognize talent when you see it. And you watch these kids in the academy that are absolutely electric and no one can touch them. And they just do whatever they want. It gets you excited. But there's a whole list of players that at 14-year-olds were exciting, and 19-year-olds, they're not even going to college.
Right.
Just I can remember cases of me being excited about a 14-year-old who was the best player in the state and the second best midfielder in the nation, and then by the time they get out of high school, it's like they didn't even go play college ball. So it's But those are some names that I'm super excited about.
Okay.
But any of them are like 5 or 6 years away. I don't know that any of them are like at 16 playing for FC Dallas. I mean, we'll see, I suppose.
On back to North Texas's sort of identity crisis. Is there anything more to say about that? Like how they're kind of a reserve team, they're kind of a development team, but they're not really either.
Well, it's I'm certainly okay with sending down a first team player that needs some minutes or injury recovery. That's something it's for as well. For me, though, it's too clogged up currently with these guys that come from. We've signed them from New Zealand, or we've signed them from. They're 21. That we've signed them from a team in Ireland. It's like, dude, there's a reason why by 21, 22, nobody wants a guy. It's like because they know that dude's not going to be an MLS or higher level player. So to me, like you're wasting your time. Like if you're trying to develop players or trying to have players that can help you win at that level or can help you have a guy maybe that you can develop and sell to USL. I mean, like, what's the point of that? If you want older guys in your squad to pass on, blah, blah, whatever, well, that's what you bring down a guy here and there from your first team, that's 20 instead of 17. Like there should just be a bulk of minutes going to academy players and to the best academy players. The signing guys out of college to be just a North Texas player, a Division III player, it's like why bother? At the end of the day, like as long as MLS Next Pro remains a U22 team league, just make it a 16, 17, 18-year-olds. It really, the problem overall is that league needs to, in my opinion, merge with USL 1. Because you need to play teams that are made up of guys. You want to play against teams that are made up of 30-year-olds,
right? That
are trying to make a living and trying to give their last gas to get a higher level of play. Guys that are 25 and coming out of college that were really good. You want to play against those guys. You don't want your team to be made up of those guys. So that's a problem with MLS Next Pro in general, and that's not an FC Dallas problem. That's an everybody problem.
Right? Is there any? Have you heard that there's any chance of that?
Oh no. Yeah. I would say the opposite, that USL wants nothing to do with MLS, but it's a shame because, the answer to that is that more independent teams in MLS Next Pro, more of these teams that don't belong to USL to MLS teams, more of what was the name of the New York team that was basically the Rhinos revisited that was in that league for a bit, and and your Chattanoogas or whatever, you need to get some of those teams to come into the MLS Next Pro, and that will help so that it's not. By doing that, you would also have more teams in any specific area, so you wouldn't have to travel as far. That's all important.
I'm near Chattanooga, and CFC is part of MLS Next Pro now, right. And it's. But I feel like there has to be sort of a suspension of disbelief from the fans about like how meaningful these games are when you get the the reserve team from Charlotte coming over.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know. Does anybody really care? You know,
One of the funny things about the way soccer is in this country right this minute is the audience in general, not people like us or people like your Rabbit fans, but your average fan doesn't necessarily know what they're looking at. So like to them, they don't see a whole lot of difference between D3 and D1. So they're just excited there's a pro team. You know, they're not as nuanced as like let's pick any other sport, like a Major League Baseball versus, Double A. Like a baseball fan can see the difference, but a lot of times in soccer, I don't think people right now can see the difference because they're just super excited they have a pro team in their backyard.
Yeah, that's
you know
true.
what I mean. So,
have a beer in the stands.
Yeah, going to a game. It's 2 hours. Have a beer. Cheer when our team scores. The guys in the end zone are bouncing up and down and waving the flags. It's all spectacle. It's all fun.
Yeah.
It's only 5,000 fans. It's not 80,000 fans. You only need, if you could average 5,000 fans in MLS Next Pro,
you're doing great.
You'd be the best in the league. You'd be making money on a small level. You'd be making all the money you would want. Everything's relative.
You mentioned this earlier, but what's the state of the Bayern relationship, the FC Dallas Bayern relationship? Does it still exist?
No. Okay. That died. Justin Che killed that. Yeah. So
how is he guilty of that murder?
Well, it's not him. It's not his fault. FC Dallas felt that they sold Chris Richards for too cheap. And then when they had this program where they were sending over players to train over there, right? And all those players would get their head turned and they would come back and they'd be like, man, I don't want to be here. Screw that. I'm going to go back to Bayern, sign me. So Justin Shea had the worst reaction of all those kids in terms of like, I don't want to be here because Bayern wanted him. They were like, oh, we want you to stay. We're going to get you loaned here or whatever. And so he was like, I'm not playing for FC Dallas anymore. Screw you guys. Well, FC Dallas felt they sold Chris Richards for too cheap. So when Bayern said, hey, we want Justin Shea, they were like, sweet, $3 million. Well, they weren't paying that for Justin Shea. So that was a festering problem. And FC Dallas not giving Bayern what they wanted on a plate made Bayern say, you know what? See you later. So that deal ended. Now I'm sure can
you remind us, what did they sell Richards for?
I think it's about $1 million, $1.5 million, maybe. Not nearly as much, but a huge sell on.
Yeah.
No, to Bayern. Richards. Shea was eventually sold to someone.
Dallas felt that they had sold to Bayern for too cheap.
Richards for too cheap. Yeah.
I see.
Huge sell on. They've made a bunch of money off Chris Richards. They're not mad about that part, but like the initial fee they felt was too low. So next time when you want one of our up and coming youth national team stars that we've developed, we're not going to give them to you for nothing. It's like you got to pay a little bit to get them.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. But he spent like 2 years in Bayern for Bayern's like reserve team. I mean, Richards. Yeah.
Well, Richards signed with FC Dallas in the middle of the season. They couldn't put him on the senior roster. Well, what are we going to do with him? Let's loan him to Bayern for 6 months because they liked him when he did the little training thing. At the end of the 6 months, it was the January window. We're going to come back to MLS. You're going to be on the first team roster. Bayern said, we want to buy him. Great. They sold him for what was like $1 million something and a good chunk of money. And then Bayern took him and they did whatever they did with him. And then the exact same thing sort of happened with Justin Shea. Justin Shea was playing with North Texas SC. He goes on a little training thing. Bayern like, hey, we want to keep that guy. FC Dallas is like, okay, it's 3 times as expensive. We sold the last guy too cheap. This guy's more expensive. And so Bayern was like, no. So that they ended up selling him to Dallas to somebody else for less money, but more than Bayern was offering. But at the end of the day, that's what killed the Bayern deal. So now they have a deal with Benfica. So when they bought Petar Musa, at the same time they did agreement, just like they used to have one with Tigres. They used to have one with Cap, Paranaense down in Brazil. Then they had it in Bayern. Now they have it with Benfica. Now we haven't seen, other than Petar Musa being sold here, we haven't seen a player like moving back and forth. So I'm not sure what all that deal encompasses. Probably like sending over coaches in the winter and doing clinics and exchange of stuff. We'll see. It's relatively new-ish, but there hasn't been a lot of activity for it. So I'm not even sure what the point is, other than maybe greasing the wheel so you can get Petar Musa. So yeah. We'll see how that goes. But that's who the current deal is with, is Petar Musa. Bayern Munich is now with one of the LA teams. I want to say LAFC, maybe. Is not who they have their deal with. I can't remember. It's one of the 2 LA teams.
Okay. I got 3 questions about Atletico Dallas, but from Mateos in Boston, Josh in Redding, California, and Chris in Arlington, Texas.
Okay.
So what's the state of youth soccer in Dallas aside from FC Dallas, and is Atletico Dallas in a good spot to make headway with clubs reluctant to work with FC Dallas? Kind of a big question.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that's a lot in there to talk about. FC Dallas, for better or for worse, has gone with what has ended up with sort of a scorched earth policy, in the sense that they recruited everybody else's best players and sometimes coaches. And then the youth sector, of course, you're taking my players and my coaches, you're taking my money. So like, there's a lot of teams here that don't like FC Dallas, and they try to ingrain in their kids a don't play for FC Dallas sort of mentality. And so you'll see really good talent that'll come through another system here that Dallas will have offered like all the time. Everett Fisher's a good example. They offered him like every year, and he always stayed with DKSC. Bailey Sparks refused to play for FC Dallas, even though they offered him every time. And he ended up bouncing up to Kansas City and then playing for their second team, then going to SMU. And so now he's like 25 and he's on, like, is it Inter Miami's second team? You know,
is
so
he
like
a youth national team player, Bailey Sparks? I feel like
yes, yeah. Not like Weston, where he's in every, or Nolan, there's in every, but he was in and out of teams. Bailey was really talented young player. No one will ever convince me that he didn't hurt himself by the path he took if he did just come to SC Dallas. You know, you could even go with dang it, I'm drawing a blank. There's an NYCFC kid who came up through one of the other Cubs here and was a never FC Dallas philosophy, and you know, it happens. But with the territory rule, you don't have a lot of wherewithal to like move around. And now with the tagging thing, they're still tagging like the 4, 5, 10 best players, you know, around town. So
tagging, can you, for the uninitiated,
sure,
can you explain what that means?
Well, they changed the territory rule. It used to be that you sort of owned all 10 million players in your yard, but they changed all that. So now you have to specifically, you can tag, it's like 10 players that don't play for your academy in your market. I think it's maybe 9 or 10. I can't remember what it is per year. And that if you have that tag as you go to college, that tag will survive in college too. So it means that like, this is a reaction really honestly to Chris Kappas, where it's like, so a lot of times what happens is FC Dallas will tag a player. They don't have to tell them that they tag him, but FC Dallas tends to go around to that player and go, hey, but we've been tagging you. You might as well come play for us. And it works. I mean, they get like Sam Stetta, the kid I was telling you about, they tagged him. And then they were like, hey, we've been tagging you. Come play for us. And he was
what club was he at?
He was with BVB International, which is a licensed BVB arm. It's not like it's an actual BVB academy. They're in the second tier of academies here. Outside of FC Dallas, it's Solar, DKSC, Dallas Texans, and then beyond that, you get your Dallas Hornets, which is the new MLS team that has a really good relationship with FC Dallas, and then your Renegades, which just became Atletico's club. Not to get back to the Atletico question. So the thing with Atletico is that they've done what FC Dallas did, is they've sort of partnered with a team that already existed. Dallas did it with a club called Inter Dallas, and so if Atletico Dallas can offer an alternative pathway to the pro game, there probably will be some players that don't like FC Dallas that will go with Atletico Dallas, thinking that like, hey, I'm really good. I can sign a pro deal with them 16, 17, 18 years old. And that gets me around the MLS territory rule. You know, like how that's going to work when FC Dallas might still be trying to tag guys that are in another pro club's system because it's a USL system. I don't know. There's a level of politics there that it's beyond my current guess as to which way it's going to go. But I think you can see where that might be an issue. But when they sign that pro deal, hypothetically with Atletico, you know, that's a circumvent. And now you could sign with whoever you want to, and the rules get different, you know. So how it all is going to go is going to be a complicated question. And there's going to be a pathway for kids to skip MLS, skip FC Dallas. And it's not just Atletico, because we're getting a USL team in Fort Worth too. So there's going to be 2 teams that are going to start in the USL Championship or in the USL Premier League when that comes. I mean, Atletico has said for sure they're doing that whenever it lands. So the team in Fort Worth doesn't have a name yet. It hasn't been officially announced, but it's coming. So, and
Atletico is going to work with that club?
No, it's a whole nother USL club.
Okay,
It's a team that is going to be, depending on when they actually announce and launch. That's just another Dallas is huge, right? I mean, there's 8 million people here, the gigantic market. So it's just another rival USL team that's going to be, if they get it announced by 2027, they'll be in the championship. But when the premier thing hits, our background information, our sources are telling us that they're going to go to the Premier League too. So those two USL teams are going to be in Division I trying to compete with MLS, and they're going to offer alternative pro pathways here in town. So the landscape's going to change. We're on our way to having like 7 or 8 professional teams here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's cool though. You know,
it is cool. It is cool, but it's going to be crazy to see how it all plays out.
I mean, I spend a lot of time thinking about youth soccer, and I see video of like the way some U8 teams in Dallas play, and it's really not like most of the country's not like that. You know how good they are. You know, you got like U8s playing like Man City. It's not like that other places, you know.
No, well, that's what I mean about Dallas. Is like, this is, you know, everyone knows where the hotbeds of talents are. Cali, Ohio, Jersey, Texas has always been up there. North Texas, Houston has always lagged behind. I don't know why, but you know, the talent is here. There's lots of great clubs here that have a lot of great coaches. You know, there's a lot of ex-pros that live in this area from South America, from Europe. You know, it used to be really heavily English, but now it's super heavy Latino. You know, there's spectacular teams here. Everyone plays the ball. Almost everybody plays the ball on the ground, passes it around. You still occasionally have teams that play to win with, like, we've got a 6'4" guy when he's 14 years old. We put him up front. We just boot it up there and he scores and we win. You know, it depends on what your goal is. Is your goal to win or is your goal to make players? So there's a lot of really well-run academies here. The ECNL, great ECNL teams, pretty good MLS Next Pro teams, all competing for the same talent. You know, so it's a real hotbed, and every year there's 1 or 2 players from other teams that are pro capable that come out of here. It's not just FC Dallas.
Let me ask a couple more questions. So, has the introduction of, this is from Andre in Salt Lake City, has the introduction of Austin's MLS teams made it harder for FC Dallas in the recruitment or development of youth talent? Because like Ricardo, Pepe, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, first of all, the introduction of Austin FC changed the behavior of the first team of FC Dallas and Houston both, because Austin proved that you could draw 30K in Texas in your stands if you marketed your team. So Dallas changed their behavior from that, but it has made it harder because the teams here that hate FC Dallas funnel their talent that they think is pro or MLS Next Pro or whatever it is to Austin. So every Austin team will have 2 or 3 really talented players from Dallas and their team. You know, maybe it's not the guy that's as good as Pepe, but some really talented players have shifted down there. So it's harder for Dallas to keep, but it's a 2-way street too. They've grabbed guys from Austin as well. You know, so but it definitely made it harder.
Which you can do if you tag them, basically, or the territory rights don't have the same.
The territory rights don't play. Like if a kid doesn't play for FC Dallas, he can go wherever he wants. Okay. You know, they tag them in terms of their MLS rights to be a homegrown eventually. You know, but if they move away, it's only in your backyard. Like if you go play somewhere else, then I can't tag a dude in Florida from Dallas, right? They got to play in the Metroplex. They got to play in your area for you to tag them. Well, what you see happen is, like, it may or may not even be a kid you've tagged. They can go down to play for Austin FC. If they play for Solar or they play for Texans, they can go play for Austin, no problem. Now in MLS Next, if you go from one academy to another, they have to pay. Like there's a fee now. So like if a kid comes from FC Dallas to Austin or Austin to FC Dallas, a fee will change hands. They pay a certain amount of money based on how good they are. And the tagging carries through even into your own team. Like FC Dallas has to tag, I think it's 45 players in your top 3 or 4 age brackets that are your players that are worth more money to you. So like there's a price break, basically, like if you were to get poached away or leave or whatever. And some of them, they can't even take it all without paying like a good chunk of money, because they don't want is poaching. They don't want inside the league everybody poaching players from each other. They want to have that not happen. So they've implemented this price category, but it happens. Like RSL, I don't want to slam RSL, but Salt Lake City itself is not a talent hotbed for players. So RSL's youth club, they bring in lots of guys from other places. And there's probably 5 or 6 players right now that play for RSL's academy that were with FC Dallas. And what happens is they lose. They're not getting enough minutes. They think they should be playing more. Where's my program? I'm not happy. You're not treating me like I'm Pepe. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go play somewhere else. And they go play for RSL, and if my understanding is correct, RSL's paying a fee to get those guys, unless FC Dallas says, you know what, we're cool, you can just have that kid. So
I see.
There's a layer of stuff happening in the academies in terms of that kind of recruiting and transfer that I'm not necessarily 100% dialed into, because I'm not a recruiting guy. I'm a watch the game and tell you if I think they're good guy. But, you know, I do know of 5 or 6 players that in the last 2 or 3 years that have left Dallas and landed at RSL. So It does happen. It does move. But I do know that there's payments involved most of the time.
Okay. Josh from Flower Mound, Texas, asks, FCD doesn't have Spanish language social media accounts and rarely does interviews with Spanish speaking players. Is this a choice or just the Hunts being cheap?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you were just talking about the profound Latin influence in the Dallas soccer ecosystem.
Yeah. The Hunts spend money differently than other people spend money. They spend money on what they think is important. Like, they're in the middle of this $180 million stadium renovation. Well, that's not nothing. That's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. They've built this amazing complex of fields. They've built this amazing academy. All that costs money. Now because of FC Dallas Youth, they make money with that, but like putting it all together costs a lot of money. So they spend money. Patamusa costs $13 million. They'll spend money. But if you look at the way they run their other organizations, like the Chiefs, for example, just Google anything about the Chiefs and you'll see what people say about how that club's run, fan experience, what it's like to play there, the amenities, all that kind of off-field or surrounding the team stuff. Like, so there's the way they operate. So yes, it's about money. It's about how they perceive the impact. And one of the things that I'm not going to defend them here, but the 30-mile radius thing is real for teams, right? They focus on that 30-mile audience. Drive to the stadium, come into the stands, right? Still, tickets, butts and seats, merch, food, all that stuff really matters at MLS still. It's not the NFL where it's about the TV. It's at MLS, it's still about in the stadium, right? So that 30-mile radius is where you mostly focus your advertising and your money. It's not exclusively, but mostly. Well, for FC Dallas, that's not a lot of Hispanic. There is Hispanic. Believe me, we have Hispanic audience everywhere. There's plenty of Hispanic in North Texas, but most of the audience up there is family, right? It's weekenders, it's casual fans. It's like, you know, there's not a super great watch FC Dallas games. The sports section's not, those guys try super hard. They're awesome, but it's not amazing. It's not LAFC. It's not, you pick what club you want. It's more family. That's who they market. That's who the Hunts have consciously chosen to go after. So for them, the money spent to try and market to the Hispanic doesn't make sense to them. That's their decision that they've made. Now, I disagree with them. They did it for a bit. Like, don't think this is in a vacuum. They used to do it. They did it a lot when they were at the Cotton Bowl and they were down in East Dallas, and that Hispanic walk-up was like $10K a game. Then it really mattered. And like when they moved to Frisco, it didn't matter so much. Atletico Dallas, just to be contrasting, 100% right out of the gate, dual language, everything, Spanish, Hispanic name, Atletico, right? That ain't Ringo, that's Hispanic. So like some of their minority owners are big in that community. They get it, but they're in a different part of town. They're trying to appeal to a different kind of fan. They're not going for families. They're going for young and cultures that are ingrained into the game. Totally different plan, totally different style. You know, so for them, it makes sense. So that's really all it is. So it's a conscious choice by FC Dallas. Budget, yes, of course, but also, you know, where they are and what their core audience is.
That's a really fast I was just reading a few weeks ago. That's a really fast growing area too. Like that 30-mile radius is increasing in population rapidly, right?
The 30-mile radius for FC Dallas has more people in it than San Jose Earthquakes have in their 30-mile radius.
Crazy.
Like when they went into Frisco, they had one high school and now they have like 14. They keep them small, but they have a lot. It's like there's more kids when they shortly after they built that stadium, there were more kids under the age of 5 than there were in the entire school system. Like that's one of the fastest growing areas than it has been for like 20 years. North Dallas has been exploding for decades. So the amount of people there is just off the charts compared to when they first moved there. They were way ahead of the curve, you know, and even just with that 30-mile radius, they're still one of the highest market teams in the league. Just because that's such a huge area. And when you include the whole Metroplex, of course, that's number 4 in the country, I think 4 or 5, somewhere like that. So but they don't have like the whole metro. I mean, they draw from all over, but it's not the same as the other big pro sports, of course.
I suspect there's a contrast between FC Dallas and Austin in that Austin's probably drawing a lot more like single people who have a lot of disposable income. Which may be why they can get $30K at a game as opposed to FC Dallas' families, you know.
Austin in general is like that, more so than Dallas is in general. And then you include that Austin's more downtown. It's not downtown, but it's more downtown. That you're right, more targeting that young, fluid cash looking for entertainment.
Dallas yuppies, is that what, do we still call them yuppies?
I don't even I don't even know what you call them. Millennials, you know. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely different approaches. But like I said, like FC Dallas, this is crazy to me. Coming out of COVID, they had lost their like head of marketing, VP of marketing. They didn't have one for like 2 or 3 years. And then Austin did what they did, had these huge crowds. And FC Dallas thought, boy, we should try and get that. They hired a VP of marketing. His name was Jerome. I don't remember his last name. Amazing. Does all this crazy stuff. They go from averaging 12K a game to that season sell out 2 or 3. The next season sell out 7. The next season sell out every game, home game. And they've sold out every home game since. After 3 years, I think, or so, maybe it was 4 years, he decides, okay, I'm on to something new. And he leaves the club. And they did not replace him. They took some kind of digital somebody they had, and no offense to this person, in their 20s, and they promoted them to like director of marketing, and that person has that job. So like they saw what Austin did. They thought, this is amazing. We're going to go get a humongous, awesome 30-year marketing vet. Boom. Look at all the sellout. Didn't replace him. Now, to be fair, maybe they thought, well, when we're doing this stadium reno, we're only going to have 12,000 seats available for 3 years. And if it overruns, maybe it's going to be 4. So maybe we don't need to try and draw 30K a game when our stadium only holds 12. So maybe there's a calculation there, perhaps, but like to see how successful it was for like 3 years, it was amazing to see this packed out, awesome stadium where Dallas wasn't the bottom of attendance. All of a sudden they're in the middle of the pack attendance. It was great. Game atmosphere was amazing. Everyone was having a good time. And then listen, the new stadium is going to be amazing, but these next 3 years are going to be painful with that. You've watched the game, I'm sure, the limited seating where half the stadium's closed.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, and there's going to be a flip of sides coming up, and they're knocking down this, they're knocking down that. It's going to be a mess for 3 years, but on the coming out of the back end of it, FC Dallas Stadium is going to be ridiculously good. You're going to have a roof on it and big old crazy awesome stuff. So
yeah, I mean, can you, I know I'm keeping you longer than I said I would, but can you give a little more detail on what the new stadium is going to
Well, there's a bunch of renderings online, and they can give you really awesome pictures. But generally speaking, like the $180 million is just for the stadium reno. It'll probably be more than that by the time it's done. But they're tearing down both. You've seen the South End, how nice it is with the Hall of Fame. Like they're basically doing that everywhere. There'll be big new huge video screen, big new structures on both sides, a big roof on over the whole thing. There's some fantastic pictures out there. It's a really nice renovation. It looks really good. On top of that, there's a further renovation around the whole stadium that it's not the stadium itself. That'll probably run about $2 billion. That's going to happen over the next 3 or 4 years. That involves like a giant hotel, offices, mixed use. Like it's a whole gigantic complex that's happening around the stadium.
The Atlanta Braves model, sort of.
Yeah, this modern sort of surround the stadium with things and infrastructure and a big office building and a hotel and a music venue. At one point, there was going to be a sports book / gambling aspect, but then gambling didn't pass here in Texas, so that part got cut. You know, the idea is to be able to have, with, of course, just all these things around the stadium, but also with the hotel, bring in pro teams as a training facility. Like it's one of the listed training facilities for the World Cup. You know, the fields out there, you know, the first team grounds. Hopefully they'll get the hotel done in time that can be part of that or whatever. So there's a massive, and the Hunts, I mean, that's $2 billion. Like maybe they're not paying for all of it. Maybe there's partners and such, but like that stuff has not been formalized and 100% like laid out like the stadium has. Stadium's happening first, but they have out pictures and renderings, and there's votes that have happened, and the whole thing's being cleared and moving through, and it's going to be an absolutely massive, spectacular thing. At the end of the day, I'm sure the Hunts are going to make a lot of money with that. You know, I mean, that's a humongous real estate project, and they own lots of areas around there, up around the thing that they went and quietly bought up stuff. So they're planning for the future for a big, huge complex with FC Dallas at the core of it. So FC Dallas is never leaving that area. But that doesn't mean that the huge other parts of the Metroplex aren't available. Fort Worth and Dallas have been vacated by FC Dallas in a way. So
is the stadium supposed to be ready in 2028? You said, is that?
Yes. Yeah. 25, 26, and 27 are the planned 3. The middle of next season, they will flip the fans from one side to the other. Probably have to also flip broadcast because theoretically the east side they knocked down first. So the east side will be built and renovated, and then they'll move everybody over there, move the media and the TV over there, and then they'll knock down the west side, which is the press box now. That big, huge structure over there on the west side, all coming down, all being replaced and rebuilt. And then eventually they'll tackle some of the north end where the stage is, try and make the stage a more usable. I think the stage is mostly going away. There'll still be some capacity to push back seats and do stuff there, but for the most part, they're going to make it more usable, more friendly, more fan oriented for games. And some fans will end up back on that side. Perhaps the supporters will end up back on that side. We'll see.
Is the capacity going to increase? I know I can Google this, but okay.
Yeah, it is. Not dramatically. Most of this move is about more suites and amenities and fan experience. That's the thing, right? They're spending $180 million, and they're not like they're doubling the size of the Sands. It's about roof and video and suites and media and fan experience, whether it be audio or food or merch, like all that. It's to take the stadium to take a 30-year-old stadium, not 30-year-old, 20-year-old stadium, and bring it up to be one of the modern stadiums in the league. Make it exciting. But the size won't be any bigger, not really. I think it's going to go up. You asked me off the top of my head. I want to say 22 to 25, somewhere in that neck of the woods. It's already like at 21, or it was before they tore. Right now it's at 12.
Okay. Hey, I think I've taken enough of your time. Buzz, thanks so much for doing this.
Sure.
Anything you wish I had asked? I feel like anything you wanted to get into?
Not really. I don't think so. Right now, Dallas is going to be fascinating. This is not academy oriented, but with the absolute debacle that Lucho Acosta was in terms of how he worked with the team and what a disaster that was, and how that unfolded so quickly to have a guy not want to be here and they don't want him here anymore. And they managed to sell him and get something out of him. It was crazy. So now they have 2 open DP spots, and they have they already had a boatload of money, and now they have even more money on their roster. So they're primed to make a couple of really exciting moves if they choose to. And that's the end of the day. That's the thing, is will Zanata and Orlandelli come through with talent to take this team to the next level? Quill's turned over a lot of the mid to the bottom part of his roster. He's getting in some of his own guys. They're showing they have faith in Quill. So the next year and a half will be really interesting to see like which way they go with this team and the talent they try and bring in with these open spots.
Can I interest you in Gio Reyna? I think Dortmund wants $10 million for him.
No, you cannot. Look, I think Gio Reyna run. Probably. Yeah, Gio Reyna is a phenomenally talented player. He would not be a good fit here specifically because A, it is brutally hot here, and B, Eric Quill is a running effort kind of guy, like run through a wall kind of guy. He wants warriors. He is not going to Lucci ball the ball around and play 500 passes. There are clubs in MLS where Gio Reyna would be amazing. FC Dallas is not one of them. It would not work. It would be bad.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And that's nothing to do with him. I mean, what MLS team wouldn't take that guy in a heartbeat? I mean, just because it's not working in Dortmund doesn't mean he's not phenomenal. We've seen what he does for the national team.
Right.
Great player.
In Dallas, no less. Last time he really showed out was at that Cowboys stadium.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks again so much. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you.